Welcome everybody, this is the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community call happening every single week at 8 a.m. Pacific time. We do have a lot of content within this course, and today we also have 3 awesome demos coming up on multiple different areas within Microsoft 365 and Power Platform, including obviously Copilot, Copilot Studio, SharePoint, and Power Platform, Power Automate, and many other things as well. Today is March 17, and my name is Sébastien Levert. I'm a principal product manager. Let me rephrase. I'm a principal product manager from Microsoft, and I'll be your host today. So talking about the intros, and then we get to the real stars of today. So today we again kind of recap some of the latest updates and news from Microsoft 365 and Power Platform, typical setup. Some of the slides you might have seen in the past as well, but it's always important that we cover them because there's always new people joining on this course. We'll also cover the latest news across Microsoft blogs, and this week was relatively slow unless we got a last-minute updates this morning. But those are going to become shared within next week then. And then we're going to go to the together mode picture in a group mode, which we're going to capture as a GIF animation and put it in social media just for anybody, for everybody for smiles. And then we're going to go to the actual stars of the day. So Sébastien Levert is going to talk about grounding your Copilot Chat declarative agent with knowledge. So basically, how do we make sure that the Copilot agent understands or answers based on existing information. Then Mike is going to talk about Message Center Agent, so natural language query for communication generation for Microsoft Admin Central, Center Messages, and M365 Roadmap. Super important topic. We do roll out a lot of stuff in the Message Center all the time, and a lot of updates in the roadmap. Wouldn't it be cool to have an agent which you can actually ask questions about the latest features on whatever is interesting for you? And that is exactly what Mike is going to show for us. Hopefully I didn't promise too much there, Mike. We'll see when we got to your demo section. And then Paolo is going to talk about consuming an MCP server with OAuth 2.0 with Copilot Studio. Really important topic because, of course, the MCP servers within your real-world enterprise deployments, they actually are authenticated. So probably your business data is not exposed anonymously to everybody. There has to be an authentication, and Paolo is going to walk through that process within that demo too. Now, I'm going to speed up a bit. I'm going to talk too fast in Finglish, so you can, if needed, you can always capture the recording afterwards and slow down maybe the recording in that case, because we want to make sure that there's enough time for the demos of today. Quickly recapping a few of the links, Microsoft Community Learning Videos channel, AKMS Community YouTube is the URL. We publish a lot of content there every single day almost, or every single business day, and depending on a month where we are going. We also have a LinkedIn page and groups for discussions and updates. A lot of open source assets available for you across Power Platform, M365, and many other topics, including prompts and skills and all of that stuff nowadays on our GitHub, which is really cool. But as it might be a bit difficult to find the relevant sample for you in the GitHub directly, because there are so many repos, so many organizations, and we actually have a sample galleries, which are making it super easy for you to find the relevant sample for you. A lot of URLs to remember: AKMS Community Home, Community MS, both of them are redirecting to the same location. You can find all of the details from that location as well. Now, we do have a lot of community calls. This week, you actually have 3 of them, or even 4 or 5, depending on how do we calculate. Today is the Microsoft 365 Power Platform community call with Microsoft presenters. This is the call where you are right now. If you're watching recording, you can check the title of the video and you know which call is that. And that is, again, happening every single Tuesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time with Microsoft presenters. So product managers, product group members, engineers, cloud advocates showcasing the latest and greatest what Microsoft is providing. On top of this, we do have the Microsoft 365 Power Platform community call, and this is where community is showcasing what they're building. So as we roll out features from Microsoft, we want to also see what are people actually creating with those features in Copilot Studio or agents or SharePoint and so on. So what are people actually creating? And those demos are within the Thursday call series that is happening every single Thursday, 7 a.m. Pacific time, a bit earlier, 1 hour earlier. Why? Well, historical reasons, and we don't want to reschedule that. Anyway, and then we do have a Power Platform monthly community call that is happening once a month. It is actually happening this week, so tomorrow at the same time, same bat channel, same bat whatever, is happening Power Platform monthly community call, where we have also 3 awesome demos related on Copilot Studio and Copilot and Power Platform topics there as well. So even though it says Power Platform, it is actually quite often Copilot and Copilot Studio capabilities, because those are part of Power Platform or Microsoft 365. And then we do have Office Admins monthly community call, which is happening on second Wednesday, actually, every single month. So that was last Wednesday, recording obviously out in the YouTube channel. A lot of other calls is also happening, and you can always go to the community/calls, AKMS community calls URL. You'll see all of the different calls which are happening. There's a lot of options for you to engage together with Microsoft across the different areas. And for many of these calls, we do publish agendas at the AKMS community meetup URL. Now, for a lot of these calls, like I mentioned, we do actually welcome community to present great options for you to get the MVP points or get MVP renewals or practice your presentation skills. So AKMS community request demo is the form, but we even have a buddy system if needed. We can guide you through, review your presentations to make sure that everybody is welcome to showcase what they built. And again, it doesn't have to be rocket science. It can be something which you learn to know. Maybe you're getting started on understanding how Copilot Studio works, and you want to share that with others, because there's a lot of other people who are trying to figure out on, wait, how do I make this thing work in a way I need it to work? Every single one of us has a story, and every single one of us have an option to actually share their story within our community calls. For a lot of the demos we already mentioned, we do have more than 2,600 samples from Microsoft and community at the AKMS community samples URL. Awesome location where you can filter down based on what you're looking for, and always go there and double check if you can find the relevant sample for you. So don't start from scratch. Maybe somebody has already solved the problem for you. Ta-da! And you'll find it in here, and then you'll be the rock star of your company or your customer, because hey, it only took you 5 minutes to find the sample and we are good to go. So that's a great option for you to take advantage. Now, you might be wondering, wait a minute, I have samples, I want to contribute. Or if I find a sample, how do I actually contribute? Maybe there's a typo in the documentation. How do I actually get started on this? That is where Sharing is Caring initiative is helping. AKMS Sharing is Caring, and directly from Hollywood, LA, here's David Warner actually explaining what is this all about.
Yes, thank you, Vesa, live from Hollywood Studios in the Oscars of sorry, different call. Okay, everybody. So yes, Sharing is Caring. What is it? It is here to provide hands-on guidance. We just wrapped up a few of our contribution guidance for the hackathon. Super exciting. Had some help provided to those who are kind of navigating GitHub. Our other sessions are getting scheduled out now. They are live. They are hands-on. They are demystifying GitHub and those weird terms like pull request and fork and blame and raw. And they are safe space, which means that we do not record them. So you can ask any all questions without fear of it going on record, because sometimes we are afraid to do that when we know things are being recorded. So be on the lookout. We're getting those sessions scheduled out now that the hackathon submissions window is behind us, and we are excited to get back on track with you. So be on the lookout, ak.ms/sharing is caring. And guess what? When you do attend and or contribute to any other aspect of the community, it counts as an official recognition contribution, which means that you will be recognized using our Credly recognition program. This is alive and well. We're getting into our, my goodness, 7th year, I think. This is crazy.
Wow.
And it's amazing because, yeah, it is showcasing your contributions. It is powered by Credly. It is considered a best-in-class community program for all of you because of all of you.
And
so,
by the way, it's not us saying that. It is Credly who's saying that.
Exactly. Right? Yes. I mean, we already knew you were all amazing and love you, but it's someone else who said, wow, you guys have amazing statistics on your program. So we're back with 2026 versions, some new ones, some fun ones. We're going to have more thematic ones. So we're already in the middle of springtime is sprung. So it's springtime superstar. And of course, the hackathon badge and even more fun ones to come. So be on the lookout. It's absolutely free. ak.ms/community/recognition. All you got to do is opt in and we'll track the amazing work you're doing. If you're looking for a badge and haven't gotten it, don't hesitate to reach out. Hit me up on LinkedIn. We'll figure it all out. But thank you, everybody. Amazing stuff. Vesa, back to you in the Finland studios.
Excellent. Thank you, Hollywood. Helsinki taking over. A quick recap on the event, TechCon 365 happening Atlanta, Chicago, Seattle this year. Atlanta this week actually happening. So check out TechCon 365, Chicago in June. Seattle was already announced happening in August. Again, TechCon365.com for more details on that. In April 21st to 23rd, and actually there are pre-days and post-days as well. We do have the Microsoft 365 Community Conference happening in Orlando, Florida. I'll be there. David will be there. Many other people will be there. So we're looking forward to actually having having a discussion with all of the attendees. So hopefully you can actually join us in person. More details on that one at m365conf.com. Then on this side of the pond, as in the European side of the pond, we do have the European Collaboration Summit 2026 happening in Cologne, Germany from 5th to 7th of May. And that is including the pre-day, which is the 5th day, which is the workshop day, and then 6th and 7th, which are the actual event days. And more than 3,000 attendees expected to be there. Now, a bit later in June 29th to July 2nd, and there's a European Power Platform Conference happening in Copenhagen, AKMS EPPC for more details. And of course, there's a lot of other events happening all around the world. So you want to go to communitydays.org and to check out if there's an event right next to you. Maybe in your closest city or village or wherever you are, you'll find a in-person meetup, and you want to meet up other people in the community. Again, communitydays.org is the right location for those. Now, quick recap, also SharePoint 25th anniversary. We'll continue celebration, but we are actually starting to close up the hackathon, or hackathon closed up actually last night at midnight in Pacific time. But there is a recording available on the digital event, which happened on March 2nd. And then there was 6 different live events happening as part of the worldwide hackathon from March 2nd to March 16th. Really, really cool events and additional details on that one at AKMS SPR 25. Now, as mentioned, the live streams are all done except the one, which is probably the most important one and the most exciting one, which is the awards show, which is happening on Wednesday 25th of March, 9 a.m. Pacific time. So that is Wednesday next week. We'll be actually broadcasting that live from MVP Summit at Redmond campus area, together with our co-host, and let's see who's going to actually show up over there. So really, really looking forward on that one. We're going to announce all of the top 3 candidates in all of the categories, and also, of course, the winners within a specific category. So a lot of celebrations on that one. And that's kind of the thing here. Just want to say thank you, everybody, for submitting. We did have 125 submissions, which is a 37%. Notice precise numbers, 37% increase from last year, which is awesome. So we had a lot of submissions. We are currently judging them, going through them, categorizing them, having a look on the submissions, and there's so much innovation. So thank you for everybody for being part of the hackathon. And again, next Wednesday, 25th, we're going to announce the actual winners. Now, quick reminder, this is the time where you want to actually already enable the camera, because within 2 slides, we can go to get a more picture. So let me enable the camera as well and sit down on the chair and put us already in the together mode, and adjust the together mode as well, so we can actually see people popping up there in the right format. So I will get actually changing the scene a bit, so we get a nicer location. Where are we going to go today? Let's go to the forest. Forest is better, if I can actually get there. There we go. So I will let that one to warm up there. So if you enable your camera, we will soon take to get a mode picture. This will make sure that the Teams is picking up for everybody who has the camera on. Quick updates from the news from Microsoft, and this is the collection from news from Microsoft.com, M365 blog, Power Platform blog, and so on. And the news are actually copied in the chat. Thank you, David, on that one. Not that many news this week, but there were some nice announcements here and there, which you probably want to have a close look on the list of news. Now, if you're watching the recording, the list of news are actually in the video description in YouTube as well. And then before we go to get about picture capture, we also want to always announce the weekly, the prompt of the week, or a skill of the week, or an agent of the week. And they are all part of the Copilot prompt library at AKMS PMP prompt library is the URL. You'll find awesome set of samples, how things are, how you can actually instruct the M365 Copilot in a best possible way. And this week, the prompt of the week is actually coming from Roger. Relatively simple one, but it is actually quite powerful. So generate the minutes of the team's retrospective or evaluation using the following structure: what worked well, what did not work well, improvement ideas, and all of that. And you will get a nice summary out from the meeting things. So relatively simple prompt. Thank you, Roger, for submitting, but powerful to get that details outside of the meeting summary as well. Good. Now it is time to actually go to get him a picture. I can see that Don is saying that he has a camera on, but he is not visible yet. Oh, there you are. It's right next to me. You're actually, oh, that side. So I will actually move the video in here. So with those who are willing, you can enable the camera. We do have a few seconds to wait to actually get here. Natalie on the central as well, already warming up. few more people showing up. I will start the Camtasia. We do have 50 seats in the room for this Together with Pictures. So let's wait a few more seconds before we're actually going to do that. Let's wait. Where's my Camtasia? Camtasia? Hello, Camtasia. Where did you go? There you are. Excellent. So a few more people joining up. Thank you, Marino, also joining. I think we will have to start scheduling in a second, and Seb is already warming up. I'm just trying to get to the same. Okay, so I guess we're good. We're not going to see more people joining in. I do apologize, Teams every now and then does not let you in. It is the Teams feature. So let's do hand waving. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you for being part of the community. Awesome to have you on the call. Thank you for doing this Together with Pictures as well. These are always fun to see familiar faces and new faces as well. So thank you for being part of the community. We'll capture a GIF animation out of that and share that in the social media. Cool. That is good to go. Excellent. Then right on schedule, a bit delayed schedule, few seconds, not too bad. We're going to move to the actual stars of the day. And today, Seb is going to start. Then we're going to transition to Mike, and Paolo is going to be the last one. But Seb, I can see you on a call.
I'm there.
Okay. I can hear you. That's good.
I confirm. Awesome.
Yes.
Let me start sharing.
Good dancing, Seb. So really good.
I'm here for that.
Yes.
I come to these calls for the dancing.
I can see what you're sharing. All is good. Take it away.
Perfect. Let me remove. Cool. Well, folks, we are continuing on our journey to build declarative agents using our Pro Code tooling. In the last few weeks, we've been crafting, creating, adding some instructions. In our second session, we've had started to add some capabilities. We added some embedded knowledge. We added code interpreter and graphic art. Now today we want to go a little bit deeper. We want to make sure that we can ground our agent with knowledge, including SharePoint content, Teams, web content, email, and people. This is really to build a useful yet powerful agent without really building something that is out of mind, that is really difficult. We're really just here configuring our declarative agent to take advantage of all the data sources that are available as part of the agent. So let me move on and see what we're going to do. So what is grounding? Why do we care about grounding? Well, groundings allow all the AI models to access specific data so the responses are based on facts. It's not just based on what the model knows and tries to infer from your request. If you're working in an organization, you might have tens of thousands or millions of documents sitting somewhere in SharePoint. Well, you want to make sure that when you answer a question to a customer, that the answer is not coming from something that was made up by the AI model. And that is something that grounding provides. It provides hints, it infers your intent, it understands what you're looking for, does the search on your behalf, and automatically returns it directly to the end user. So while you can build something quite interesting without the grounding, definitely you can build something super powerful when you have grounding enabled, because you will really have what you want here, including specific answers and citations. And that's really where I think the declarative agent platform on top of Copilot is really powerful, because you have multiple ways to build that, right? If you've been building tons and tons of AI systems, you might have built something called RAG, or retrieval augmented generation. What does it mean? It means like you are doing the work, you are collecting the data, you are managing the embeddings, you are summarizing the documents so your AI model understands that. Well, in this case, that's not what you do. You just say, hey, go look here, go look in that folder, and the platform will automatically does all of that on your behalf, all for you. So today we're going to ground in 6 different knowledge sources. So first, we're going to do OneDrive and SharePoint. OneDrive in SharePoint allows you to ground on document libraries, sites, files. You will, like for example, you will be able to have employee handbook, benefit, pricing sheets, or any documents you can think of that would live inside SharePoint. And we support hundreds of different formats of files. Teams messages. Think about channel conversations, group messaging, even meetings can be used as a grounding source. So think about that recurring meeting that comes every single week, where there's a wall of text in the chat that happens every single week, that there's the transcript. Well, now you can really have powerful conversations with these artifacts. Web search. Maybe you want to connect your external website internally so people can ask questions that could be helpful to have when you're internal. So you don't have to go to your website and search for stuff. Email. Well, first, you can ground directly inside your user's Outlook mailbox or even into a shared mailbox. So that means that not only you can get the contact that you have everywhere else, but also that comes into your email. It's very personal and it's adapted for you. People. People allows you to ground on M365 profiles and org chart. So you can say something like, hey, I'm new to this organization. Who does my manager report to? And can you draw me an org chart based on my M2, for example, my second manager? And it can do that automatically, both using the people knowledge source, but also using the code interpreter that we saw last week to visualize the information that people can get. And finally, the graph connectors. You can ingest external data directly inside Microsoft 365, right? Well, now you will be able to also use that data directly inside your agent. So let's start with SharePoint and Teams. Let me go to my declarative agent here. So this is the same agent we had last week. It's my HR onboarding buddy, has a bunch of instructions, a couple of conversation starters, and I have code interpreter and graphic art already configured. I did one thing. I removed the capability of having embedded knowledge because I do believe that embedded knowledge and SharePoint sometimes might be conflicting in some scenarios. And in that case, I think it's preferable to have our document sitting directly inside Microsoft 365 in a real SharePoint site rather than being embedded with the agent. So the first thing that I did is I removed it. So if I go here, you're going to see it's very simple. I just have to say, I want to have my capability to be configured with OneDrive and SharePoint. It has a URL. Small little tip here. Especially when you're working throughout different environments, you probably don't want to hard code your URL right here. You want to use some of the mechanism that we offer you within the Agents Toolkit that is our environment variable. So now I can go here and go to my environment.local and see that, for example, my Java onboarding documents URL is this URL right here. So that way, each environment you're going to target, you will be able to change that. So your agent won't have to change, only your environment file. So here you see, you have this document right there, and now I can go and ask questions. So let me go open up here. Let me go to SharePoint, and I have my onboarding buddy. So let's go, and how many PTO days do I get? And now, instead of using the embedded knowledge that used to be the source that we used in the previous session, now it's going to go and use our HR site that is right here. So that's a human resources with a bunch of documents in the onboarding folder. And I just gave the location to Copilot. So Copilot knows how to handle that. And now if I come back here, I should have very quickly that information right there. Copilot is giving me probably at this point the best answer we're going to have all day. Now you can see that the employee handbook was cited right here and gives me a good additional detail here. So that is kind of the first thing. And then you can have as many as these URLs you want. You can target them at the site level, at the library level, at the folder level, at the file level. So it's really up to you to decide how granular you want to be in your knowledge. Second, Teams messages. Teams Messages has a ton of capability, and I think it's super powerful. So in this case, I pointed it to a Teams channel. That Teams channel allows me to share tips and tricks about new hires. So here, if you go to Teams right there, you're going to see I have a couple of posts with a couple of replies. And as a brand new employee, something that might be worth it is, how's the cafeteria at Zava? And now it's going to go and we'll find that. It's going to identify that there might be some content that live into Word documents. So in that case, it did that. Interestingly enough, it talked enough about it that it kind of decided that to use only that. And now let me try a prompt I used a little bit earlier. So how's the cafeteria? Is it any good? And now it's more subjective, right? And then now you're going to see that you'll have full reference directly from that Teams channel directly from there. So that's super powerful because now all that tribal knowledge that lives in Teams conversations and group chats and so on is now discoverable for your users. Another one that is really cool is the web search. And in this case, I won't do a prompt here, but we're using the Zava website URL. So now it's going to use the Bing index to allow me to search for it. I could just remove the sites here and not push any of sites, and it has access to all the web. But in that case, I'm just putting the Zava website URL. Finally, I added two more. I added email and people. So I can do scenarios like the following. Who's my onboarding buddy? And it's going to look and try to find something relevant about onboarding buddies. And now I'm going to have Copilot answer that, hey, by the way, you received an email a couple of days ago about your onboarding buddy. And it's going to be able to tell me who's the onboarding buddy and so on. And then here you see it found, interesting, it found no onboarding buddy. It should have. Sometimes these things are happening. Let me maybe try a new, let me just try a new chat here. Who's my onboarding buddy? And because the reason why I want to show you that is how useful it is to go from getting that answer to then afterwards pile up. And then there you go. I got an email earlier today, and it's Daryl that is my onboarding buddy. So cool, but who's Daryl? And this is where the people knowledge source is super powerful, because then it's going to understand who is Daryl, who Daryl is reporting to, what's his role, what are its latest activity in the organization, and will give me a brief summary of Daryl with his email, his role, and so on and so forth. So within a couple minutes, I was able to infuse knowledge directly inside that agent that now is extremely powerful for us. We now have currently 8 different capabilities that we have discussed. And in the next session, we're going to talk about action. So far, we've been retrieving stuff within the M365 ecosystem. Next session, we're going to go out. We're going to find content that lives outside the Microsoft 365 ecosystems using actions for both API plugins and MCP servers to do both read and write operations. So talk to you all next week. Back to you, Vesa.
Excellent. Thank you, Seb, on that one. Awesome work. And I love the style. So it's good to have a different presentation style. So thank you, Seb, on that one. Now let's directly then jump into Mike. So Mike's turn. Mike is going to talk about message center agent. Something what Mike, I think you have done this as a hobby example, right?
Yeah. So let me start by sharing my screen.
Yep.
Okay, so hi everybody. My name is Mike Francis. I'm a principal cloud solution architect at Microsoft. There's my contact information there. Feel free to reach out. And so I put together this project originally just as an exercise to learn the Microsoft 365 Agents toolkit, and turned out to be pretty useful. So some of the challenges that I think all of us face here is just the high volume of updates coming to Microsoft 365. And if you're not aware, within the admin center, they publish on a daily basis the updates, and it's essentially proactive information. It's information about features that are changing within Microsoft 365, and they are annotated very well. They have dates of when you should take action. Things are classified as critical, high priority, and so on. So it's a very good source of information. The challenge is being able to basically sort through that information to get the information that you need for your own responsibilities within an organization, or just for your own knowledge. And that's where this agent really is super helpful. So what it provides, and as you'll see here in a second, it's just a natural, efficient search of Message Center. Also, you're able to leverage the fact that Copilot now is available within the Microsoft 365 apps. So, for example, in Outlook, I'll have a demo of that in Outlook. On the right-hand side, you can bring up Copilot, and you can then invoke agents within that. That Copilot Chat is actually, as you probably know, is now integrated with the Microsoft 365 apps. So I can, from that side panel, you can invoke an agent, use the data from that agent, and populate an email message. And this is the searching is a great feature, but where this is even more useful is kind of leaning on AI to help triage messages, to help pull out those messages, those updates that are coming that are most important to you. And so again, this is and I'll show you that. As I said, you could efficiently compose comms for admin remediation and user awareness. Again, leveraging generative AI to help you with that, but using the data that you're getting back from Message Center. And ideally, this will cut down on the noise and so you can get to the information that you need. So let's without further ado, let me go right to show you the agent. So this is available, as you've seen in the slides. I have there's a link to the repo where you can find information, and you can install this yourself. So this is the Message Center agent, and it has the 6 starter prompts there. So let's just start with a basic one. What changed for Copilot since yesterday? So that would be interesting to know. You're coming in, starting your day, and you want to know what changed. And then specifically, we're narrowing this to Copilot. Of course, maybe this could be SharePoint or whatever else your specific area of interest is. And then we're directing it to look for new and modified messages. So kind of a clarification around what changed to help the orchestrator find the messages. So it found 8 messages. It gives us a summary up here, kind of repeating what we asked for. And here it's, and this is something that I implemented, is the pagination support. So this is underlying this is the Graph API that calls that basically retrieves the messages. It respects the requirements, the security requirements and roles required to call that API. So the minimum role is message center reader. So not everybody in the org can use this agent unless they have that minimal role. So getting back to the display here is found 8 messages, and you're viewing messages 1 through 5. So as I mentioned, I've implemented pagination, which displays the messages in batches of 5 messages. So a couple of things here is, so it gives us the title. And here is, I'm using a adaptive card to provide more details. And if I click there, open it in Message Center, it will pull up the message. And just in case not to make any assumptions, and this is Message Center in case you haven't seen it before. And here now in this particular message, if you notice, it includes a roadmap item, and messages may include may not include any, but may include one roadmap item or several. And so within the agent, I have another API. So the roadmap, you're probably familiar with the Microsoft 365 roadmap site. There's an API available for that. And a few months ago, they've implemented an OData interface for that. And so I'm leveraging that OData API to access the roadmap or roadmap information. So also I have an adaptive card for that has all the details on that roadmap item, and this will navigate right to that specific roadmap item there. So, and if I scroll down to the bottom of the 5th message here, it gives more information about the messages that it's displaying. And so I can then navigate, I can go to the next page. If it was a lot of messages, I could say, go to the last page, and then you can navigate back, go to the first page. So using this kind of this page terminology, it will understand that. So let me jump back to my slide here. Okay, so I wanted to point out some of the key development points in this project. So one is that it shows how to call the Microsoft graph. In this case, I'm calling that endpoint that retrieves the Message Center messages. And I'm doing this without any code. It's just it's a pure declarative agent, all JSON files, but it's leveraging the support in the platform, and it's actually in the Teams app platform that supports OData, OAuth. OAuth 2 is supported, and you can, through a registration with the Teams developer portal, you can set up the authentication. So this project is leveraging that. With this project, it demonstrates how to package a project for easy deployment. So because it doesn't have any code, there's no code to deploy. So it's purely just that app package that gets deployed. There are 2 PowerShell scripts. One, and so the idea is that I could point like an admin. I'm thinking the audience for this would be admins, basically end users, not developers, and because they want to know, they want to easily get to their messages. So I want to make it as easy as possible. So they don't have to install any. They don't have to install VS Code. They run 2 PowerShell scripts. One installs the dependencies and installs the CLI version of the Agents Toolkit, and then the other PowerShell script it installs or creates the app registration needed for the agent. This also is a showcase of how AI takes natural language and translates it into an OData URL. It also shows you how you can structure step-by-step agent instructions, including keywords like plan and implement. You saw the pagination that I implemented. One of the things I struggled with that was getting the total count of messages to have it display. Getting the total count is actually easy. You set the top, $ top equal to 0. You call the query, and it returns the total number. And actually, as long as count is equal to true in that OData URL, it'll always return the count. For whatever reason, I couldn't leverage that. So the way I resolved it was having 2 calls. The first call just to get the count, and then the other call to actually get the records. Also, in this project, you'll see it gives, and I document how I did this to generate the OpenAPI definition. So this does use the OpenAPI support in the Agents Toolkit, and that works great with the OpenAPI definition. Includes all the descriptions of the functions and the parameters for the function, which the Copilot orchestrator uses to determine. That's how it is able to take the basically derive the intent from the natural language and match that up with the natural language. That's how the API is described within the OpenAPI definition. And then there's also for the Roadmap API, I use TypeSpec to generate the OpenAPI definition for that API. So one of the things, I wanted to show you how. So if you're, one thing that helps with troubleshooting is you can say show me the OData URL. So this will show the OData URL that was used to call the Graph API. So, and this is still right. So I'm just scrolling back up to our prompt is what changed for Copilot since yesterday. Look for new and modified messages, and that translated into this URL, which was used to that was passed to the Graph API. Well, this is the Graph API that was actually called. So you can see the filter there that was used. Right. And one other thing too. So I'll show you the repository so that I had it handy here. Let's see. Okay, so here is the repository. One thing I wanted to show you. So there's this deployment guide, and again, it's very, very straightforward. More thinking about the audience of being the end users and not necessarily developers. Also, I wanted to show really quick here's the OpenAPI definition I was describing. So this is the Graph API endpoint, and then here's this includes the descriptions for all of the parameters, and there's only one endpoint here. So and the description for that. One other thing to show, I know we're crunched on time, but as far as generating comms, so I have an example here where I'll close that. So this email was generated from, and I described how you can use Copilot. Don't have time to actually do the demo here, but you with Copilot here, here you can see I did this previously, right? So you can actually start the agent, use it right here within Outlook. And by mentioning the agent, you can save the output of the agent and then use that in a subsequent step to populate your draft message, which is what I did here. So I have the idea here, kind of the scenario is, if I wanted to have a triage meeting to review with the team of messages that need immediate attention that have user impact, I could use this as a preparation for that meeting. And you could see here the action required for these particular messages are that by the end of the month, and this one is actually past due. That was on Sunday. So again, kind of leaning on the generative AI and the data that's available from the message center to produce this meeting agenda to help drive triage and ideally get these really urgent issues, get action and get these resolved as quickly as possible. Let's here's some example prompts. And by the way, I do have this deck available in the repository, and you'll see in the folder presentation. And if you go in there, I have the details, so how you can actually do this triage example yourself. I give you the prompt, and this also involves a template that I use to populate the draft email. So all of that is there in the repository. And just to close with, and then lots of references there. Again, if you pull down the deck, you'll find all of these references. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike. Really, really great job on the demo and structure. And it's always great to have these open source examples because it's so easy for people to have a look on them. So great work there, Mike. Awesome job.
Thank you.
Cool. Then we'll transition to Paolo. We are maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes behind of the schedule. Not a critical thing. Let's see if Paolo can actually adjust his presentation. But still, don't, Paolo, rush on it if needed, and just focus on doing the full thing. If we go a few minutes long, it's okay. So keep that in mind. But I can see the slides. I can hear you. Take it away.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. And yes, today we are going to see how we can consume an MCP server in Copilot Studio using Open Authorization 2.0 from a security perspective. I'm Paolo Pialorsi, and I'm a senior developer advocate in Microsoft, and my focus is to spread the knowledge about how you can extend Microsoft 365 Copilot. So that's why I'm here today. So let's move to the actual content. And first of all, let me share with you that this demo is part of a set of labs that we have in the Copilot Developer Camp, which is a set of videos, training materials, hands-on lab that you can use to learn how to build agents to extend Microsoft 365 Copilot. So if you want to dig into this topic and many more, go to aka.ms/Copilot DevCamp. But moving to the actual content of today, I want to start with a question. Why do we need to consume an MCP server with open authorization? You might be wondering why. Well, there are multiple reasons, in my opinion. One, of course, is that you want to protect your data. So that's totally fine to have a bunch of MCP servers to support your agents, but it is definitely fundamental and important to protect the data that your agents access through the MCP servers. So using security and using specifically open authorization, you can have scoped short-lived access tokens that allow you to consume your MCP servers under the identity of the user who is interacting with the agent. You can use the open authorization protocol to authorize access to the tools based on who the user is then, so that when you implement your logic inside the MCP server, you can filter data, or you can change the behavior of the MCP server based again on who the user is. Plus the fact that if you are an ISV or a service provider providing the MCP server to multiple customers and multiple tenants, you can also use the authentication and the identity of the user consuming your MCP tools to do stuff like consumption planning, pay per use of your resources, and generally speaking, you can have a better understanding of the usage and do auditing and telemetry on an individual user or per customer basis. So definitely a better solution than just using anonymous access or static API keys to access an MCP server, because anonymous access and static API keys are the other options we have nowadays when it comes to consuming MCP with security in place. So that said, first of all, I will move to the actual demo of today, and then I will briefly come back to the slide deck to make a short recap of the steps we have been through. So this is the lab I was talking about, and you have the link inside the chat. And first of all, let me show you the MCP server in action from the agent perspective. So I'm in Copilot Studio. I have an agent that I already created, but then we're going to do it from scratch. And the idea is that I can rely on an MCP server like the one I have right here and that I'm going to show you right now, implemented using .NET Framework. And you can find the source code of this MCP server in the Copilot Camp lab. Here you can see I'm relying on the Model Context Protocol SDK to implement the actual MCP server. And inside the MCP server, we will come back later on this business logic. We have some logic to do authorization based on who the user is. So now in my Copilot Studio agent, I can see, for example, since this is an MCP server to manage a list of hypothetical candidates for an HR department, I can say list all candidates. And by triggering this prompt, my agent will start consuming the MCP server, but will do that in a secure way, as I will show you shortly. So now we selected, the agent selected to use the MCP server, selected to use the list candidate tool provided by the server, retrieved in JSON format the list of candidates, and gave to my end user in a nice looking way the output of the MCP tool request. If we go back to the server, we can see that in the console window of the server, we can see that we have got a request with a bearer access token. And actually, since this is running locally on my machine, I can also rely on a dev tunnel. And specifically, I can use the inspection of the dev tunnel to see and show you that I've got a request, which includes actually in the authorization a bearer token, which will give me information about who the user is, as we can see right here, if I go to jwt.ms. And here I can see that I've got an access token for my user. So now I am consuming my MCP server for a specific application. Now, how can we do that in practice if we want to implement it from scratch? First of all, we need to rely on Entra ID, and we need to configure a couple of applications, at least once, but I rather want to create two of them. We need an application for the server publishing the MCP server tools, and we need to have a client or a consumer application which will be used by Copilot Studio to consume our server. In the MCP server application, I configured that this application exposes an API. So right here, I have a specific application scope that I defined, which is called hr.manage, can be whatever you like. This is the configuration of my scope. And I have a unique URI, which right now, since I'm using a dev tunnel, matches the URL of my dev tunnel. Then I configured from a client perspective, from a consumer perspective, that I have a specific application which is configured from an API permissions perspective to have the permission to use that delegated permission scope. So I simply said add a permission, I search for my API keys, or I can go here and search for HR MCP, and here I have my server, and I simply selected the permission scope that I configured before, and then I said that as an admin, I granted the admin consent for this specific permission scope. Plus the fact that in my consumer application, I also have configured a client secret, as well as a few settings from an authentication perspective that we will see again in a matter of few minutes from now. So I have an Enter ID application for the server, and I have an Enter ID application for the consumer of my server. Now I can go to Copilot Studio. For example, here I have an HR MCP consumer agent, which is actually an empty agent, but just for the sake of saving some time, I knew that this demo would have been squeezed a bit, so I pre-created my agent. I can simply add a tool, and I can say that I want to add a new tool of type Model Context Protocol. Now, when it comes to configuring my tool, I need to provide the information about what the MCP server is. So something like the name, for example, which can be HR MCP with open authorization, a description, and of course, to speed up the demo, I'm just copying and pasting the values. Then I have to provide the URL where my MCP server is listening to, and then I need to configure my MCP server to use open authorization. When I do that, I have three options: the dynamic discovery, which will do all the magic by itself, dynamically but providing a bunch of URLs, or the manual one, which is the one I'm going to use. So here I need to provide the settings for my client application. So practically speaking, I need to provide the client ID of the application, the consumer application that I showed you before. I need to provide the client secret that I configured for my application, as well as I need to provide the authorization URL, which is the one of Enter ID, to go through the authorization flow, and the token URL, which is the one I use to get a token or to refresh a token, the same one. Then from a scope perspective, in my consumer application, you might notice that I have not only the HR.manage permission, but I also have few graph permissions. And those permission scopes are those that I'm going to use right now for the initial configuration of my MCP server in Copilot Studio. I'm interested in OpenID, profile, and email. By doing so now, the Power Platform behind the scenes is creating a connector, a custom connector for me, which will have all of the settings for my MCP server secured with open authorization. Once it will be ready, I will get back from the Power Platform a URL, which will be the URL that I need to use and copy in the authentication URL of my server inside the Entra ID. So let me copy this URL and let me go back to the consumer. Under the authentication section, right here, I can add a redirect URI of type web, and I can provide the URL that I just copied from the Copilot Studio interface. Moreover, if I go to the list of custom connectors that I have in my environment, if I refresh this page, we can see that now we have the HRMCP with the OAuth that I just created. I can edit this item, and what I can do is to go to the security section, and in here I can edit the open authorization settings and specify that I want to have a specific resource URL for my target MCP server, which will be the unique URI that I configured in Entra ID. Plus, I want to have my specific permission scope, the HR.manage, instead of those generic from a graph perspective. Plus, I need to provide one more time the client secret, because whenever I edit this interface, I need to specify the client secret. So once I'm done with that, I can update my connector. I can then save these settings. And when it will be ready, I can simply go back to Copilot Studio and complete the configuration steps. So matter of few more seconds and we should be ready. And here we are. Let me go back and let me go back to my Copilot Studio agent. So I can simply say next, and now I need to connect to my target MCP server. So let's do the connection. It will be an open authorization connection. I will have to provide my identity, and of course this is the identity that I'm going to use in my target tenant right now. So let me select this account. And eventually I will need to provide multi-factor. No, I don't need it now because it was already cached. Good, so we save some time. And now we are connected. So we can add and configure the MCP server and all of the tools defining the MCP server inside the configuration of my agent. And we are almost there. As soon as the agent will be configured with the MCP tools in place, we can start interacting with our server using the same experience that I showed you before. So here we are. It is now listing all of the tools, and in a matter of few seconds, here we are, we have all of the tools. So again, I can say in this new agent, list all candidates. By doing so, the first time an end user will use this MCP server will have to allow Copilot Studio to use it, and we'll have to connect using the connection manager, so creating an actual connection for the current user. You select connect, you submit your connection request so that you will be then connected, and once you are ready, you can come back, you can retry the request, or you can even, and here we get the list of items, or we can just create a new session. Quite often, the very first time, it doesn't give you a thumbs up in the result, but now it should be good. List all candidates, it retrieved all of the list of candidates. I've got the output in a nice looking format. And if I go back to my server, I can see one more time that I've got a request here at the end of this console window with the open authorization token in place. Just one more minute, Vesa, and here we have the implementation of the actual server, and inside the server, we ensure for every single request that we have the authorization scope we want to have, so that from a security perspective, the MCP server can validate if the request is coming with a proper delegated access token with a proper permission scope. So that said, this is just a recap of what you need to go through. I will copy and paste the image of this slide in the chat, and you can find all of the information in the Copilot Dev Camp. Thank you, and back to you, Vesa.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Paolo, on that one. Let me share my screen here so we can actually close up for today. We do apologize. Having 3 demos is always a bit, gets the call crowded, so I need to speed up on the intro. See, we need to speak even faster so that we also speed up on it. If I flip on finish, maybe that will help. Anyway, thank you, Seb. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Paolo, for today. Next week, we actually do have also 3 demos. Before next week's call, we do have Power Platform monthly community call happening tomorrow at 8 a.m. Pacific time with Chief Darsha and Kirarti. Really cool demos coming up on that one. So community demos on that one. Then on Thursday, we also have the Microsoft 365 Power Platform community call, the weekly one with community demos happening there. Really cool demos there as well, related on AI, Copilot Studio, SPFX, all of that stuff, and list formatting with Chris. You don't want to miss Chris and list formatting JSON tips. If you don't know what I'm talking about, have a look on the recordings. They're awesome. But then next week, we do have Seb coming back, and Giorgio and Eric is going to talk about Copilot Studio plugin for Claude Code and GitHub Copilot. Really cool stuff. And Rabia is joining us all the way from Australia in a different weird time of the day on Agent on 365 Copilot with advanced MCP servers. But that's it for 24th of March. Thank you for joining for today. I do apologize. We went a bit long. Hopefully that doesn't mind too much. Check the Discord server, check the feedback. Please provide us feedback. That is always welcome. And again, just recapping for today, recording will be available within 24 hours at Microsoft Community Learning YouTube channel, AKMS Community YouTube. You want to subscribe there today to get notified when the videos are going out. And that's it for today. Thank you. Let's stay in touch. Thanks, everybody. Cheers. Bye-bye.